Welcome everybody. Welcome to our June meetup for EdTech Austin. Hopefully you're in the right place. So, welcome everybody. I hope you had a chance to get something to drink, something to eat. Again, this is EdTech Austin. My name's Sean Duffy, and we've got a really great night for you guys tonight. Super excited about the program that we have for you. So I'm going to try and get through kind of welcome introductions quickly so that we can stay on schedule here. So for those of you who have never been to EdTech Austin before, to tell you a little bit about what we do and what this organization is all about. We started it about a year and a half ago. And so we've been doing one meetup a month, end of last Wednesday of every month. We've been doing them here at Capital Factory. And the goal here is for you all to connect, find people who are like-minded, interested in educational technology, but also interested in making a difference in education through technology. And so we the goal for the organization is to hear what you all need and want and provide you with the best program that we can each month. And so for everybody who's helped to support the meetup, who have attended the meetups in the past, thank you for continuing to help our community grow. And it's because of you guys that we can do all of this. So also, in order to do all of this, it's not possible without some sponsorship. And if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, talk to me, email me. All the food and beer is provided by our fantastic sponsors. Also the space, Capital Factory, lets us crash this place for free, so it's really cool. So Capital Factory, Pearson, Teacher Graph has been really awesome. Any Teacher Graph folks in the house? All right, thank you. And they've been really great promoting, sharing, letting people know that we exist and that it's really cool to come to EdTech Austin. You're welcome to do the same. You can tweet at these folks, tell them thank you, spread the word about EdTech Austin. We really appreciate it. Texans for Economic Progress has been fantastic. If you saw a tweet from them, they do a really good job. Chelsea McCullough is super great. And then also Sapling Learning and WonderLab Learning, two really great local EdTech companies that have been supporters of us in the past. So thank you to them for all of their contributions. So tonight's events, I'm trying to get through announcements within the next 3 minutes so we can stay on schedule. I will be introducing John Baldo from Startup Weekend Education. He's a program manager and he's going to be running tonight's workshop. Following that, we'll do a Q&A with Ben Ponder, an EdTech entrepreneur and business consultant. He's got some really interesting stuff to share with you guys. Be sure to prepare questions for him as well. Don't be afraid to put him on the spot. That's why we have him here. So think about that as we go through tonight's program. And then finally, we'll provide some time for you guys to do some open networking and discussion, meet each other, exchange business cards, talk about cool things that you're working on, and that sort of thing. We do have to be out of here by 9 o'clock, so that's why I have 8:50 on the schedule. And if you want to help clean up, I certainly appreciate it. And so that'll be a fun 10 minutes of just getting everything done. So throughout the evening, follow us at EdTech Austin on Twitter. You can tweet anything you want using the hashtag at EdTech Austin, and that way, if there's something that you want to share that somebody you think somebody should see, use that hashtag, and then we can go back later and check out whatever it is that you're working on. And it's a way for us to stay connected. So use the hashtag EdTech Austin. Okay, so some announcements and agenda items. As you guys saw, if you got my email yesterday or the day before, we have a ton of stuff happening with EdTech Austin. And I know that inboxes are crazy and you get a million emails from a million different people. That's why I also tweet about it, put it on Facebook, share it as much as I can. We usually do a lightning round, but because of tonight's programming, it's going to go a little bit longer. We want you to share anything that you have, either through Twitter, using that hashtag EdTech Austin, or go to facebook.com/groups/EdTech Austin. Join it if you haven't already, and you can share any of your lightning round ideas there. Lightning round, for those of you who don't know, is 1 minute to discuss whatever it is that you're working on, or who you want to connect with, or job postings, that kind of thing. We usually do that for about 10 minutes at the end of the meetup. We're not doing it tonight, so go on Facebook and join the group and post it there, okay? It'd be great if you checked in on meetup.com. You don't have to, but show us some love there. If you want to review tonight's meetup, post photos, any of that stuff, totally cool to do that. Go on Facebook, invite your friends. Don't be shy. Follow your neighbor on Twitter. We also have a blog. I will be doing a blog post as a recap of tonight's event, and I'm going to try and take as many photos and like videos and things like that. I know that John is going to be using some footage from tonight for future boot camps. This is actually kind of a pilot for boot camps. So I will be writing about it in the blog, and you'll see stuff on Startup Weekend on their website as well. Some shout outs. Open Ed Jam is happening actually the same weekend that we're doing a really big event here, and Startup Weekend is doing a big event. But if you're going to be in San Antonio, or if you're from San Antonio, is Mariah here tonight? Okay, she was here last month, but they're doing a really cool event in San Antonio. We hope that you stay in Austin for that weekend and join us for Startup Weekend Education. That's happening here at Capital Factory. The website doesn't have as much information as it should, but rest assured the location is here. You got a promo card when you walked in. That's good for 25% off. It's an early bird special if you sign up before the end of the month. So it's a really, really great price for an entire weekend of awesomeness. And the goal for tonight is to kind of prep you for that. So we hope that being here tonight, you're going to enjoy the program that we have from John and through Startup Weekend. And then the opportunity to join us next month here at Capital Factory. It's 54 hours, go from an idea to a fully fledged startup in 54 hours. It's going to be a really, really great event. So if you go to austinedu.startupweekend.org, you can find the registration information and use the promo code EdTech before the end of the month, and you'll get a 25% off discount. So if you're wondering, like, I don't really know anything about startups, hopefully, again, tonight we'll kind of give you a better idea of what business models and education are all about. But rest assured, if you're here for the group, you're the right person to go to this weekend. So it's going to be a really, really good time. We definitely need educators, developers, and designers. So even if you just have a friend who's just marginally interested in education, send them the link and tell them to join us. Some needs that we have still, we're looking for sponsors and coaches, so talk to me after if you want to be one of those, and we'll get you into the event. Also, I want to give a shout out to the incubator program that we're starting here at Capital Factory. We're calling it EdTech Action. I talked a little bit about it in the blog post last month, and I shared some links on Facebook and through the email. Scott, do you want to say a couple of words about that and give us kind of an update? Cool. Yeah, you can if you want.
So welcome. We're glad you all could join us. This is a whole business development in EdTech, and that's kind of what we're doing. We partnered, EdTech Action, we partnered with Capital Factory here. We're starting a vertical EdTech incubator. So we're looking for great startups to help develop here at Capital Factory, and we're looking for mentors and folks just to get involved. What we're trying to do with this is we're trying to get this sort of flip the model a little bit on its head. We're not just about developing businesses, we're about connecting, just like EdTech Austin, connecting educators and getting that sort of ground up, top down, bottom up, side to side development going. And so we're really connected in with the education world, both from early childhood through EC through 20. And so we're really looking for partners in this venture. We're really excited about it. We're just getting started on this, and we've got a lot of interest from a lot of companies, from a lot of educators, from a lot of different folks. And so we really are about trying to do something really awesome here in Austin and bring people together in Austin. We know that the energy is here. We see it in these meetups. We see it happening with all the startups that are wanting to come here. We have people coming here from San Francisco. We have people coming here from up in the Northeast. I have a meeting with someone from Bordeaux, France that wants to come here. So we have some really exciting stuff happening here, and we're really excited that y'all are part of EdTech Austin. And if you're interested in finding out more about EdTech Action, so that you can see me after the meetup, or Sean, you can follow us at EdTech Action, and there'll be more to come. And so we're really excited about it, and hope everyone can be a part of it. So thanks.
Yeah. And then also, there is kind of just a landing page. Sign up for more information at the link there, edtechaustin.com/ and then a bunch of other letters and dashes. Okay, so with that, I don't think I have anything else. Awesome. That's perfect. Because now I'd like to introduce you to John Baldo. John is from Startup Weekend Education, and this has been kind of a conversation and a couple of meetings. I even met with him in Las Vegas when I was out there for the Up Global Summit. But John's got a really great program ahead for you guys, so I hope you will be good attendees for him and participants in this great presentation. Did I stall long enough to get it?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
thank you. So, hi, welcome to the Business Models and Education Bootcamp that we're piloting here tonight. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I just wanted to, we just heard a lot of thank yous, but I just wanted to give another round of thanks to all of you for having me here tonight. I actually was able to attend this meetup back in March during South by EDU, and I sort of creepily follow you and all this activity from California, and I'm really excited about the community you're building. So thanks for having me. Just quick about myself, program manager for Startup Education, and in like 1 or 2 sentences, Startup Education is a nonprofit that's building programming like this to support people who are entering education entrepreneurship and helping them be as successful as possible. Our flagship effort is Startup Weekend Education, which Sean just talked about. I'm really excited is also coming to Austin. I've also been a software engineer in an EdTech company called Amplify. I was briefly a middle school math teacher. I currently live in Oakland, and I grew up on the Jersey Shore, so I also sort of do myth busting about people from New Jersey as I travel around the country. So it's on my agenda for tonight. But the real agenda is to introduce you to a tool called the Business Model Canvas, and get you to it's sitting there in front of you, hopefully, and get you to use that tool to think about more traditional, old school, I'll use business models in an innovative new way. And the last thing is to talk about some strengths and weaknesses of business models in education and how they might fit for an idea that you have in mind. Quick sort of logistical thing. I have up there 5 or less per group, but it looks like the room is best configured for 4 for each of these business model canvases. If you have an empty, if you're not sitting next to a business model canvas, this big paper, could you possibly move around to an open seat? Can people raise their hand if they have an open seat at their canvas? So we got 1 up here and 3 up here. So is anyone in the back who's not at a canvas? Cool, so. No, so what I'm getting at is we're maxed out, but we have some seats open up here. So if you want to move up real quick, just while I'm talking, no big deal, because it's going to be really important for the rest of the session. So can we raise our hands if you have an open seat? I got 1 here, 1 here, 3 here. So at least 4 people want to come to the front. Sorry about that. No one bites. Okay, feel free to move up as I'm talking, not offended. Cool, so the agenda is, we're at the tail end of the welcome that I'm doing right now. I want to introduce you to the business model canvas very quickly with an example, and then most of our time is going to be spent with the line item with the asterisk there, and that's you guys working in groups on the business model canvas in front of you. So hopefully you knew that you're signing up for a more workshop and someone's not going to be talking at you for an hour and a half. And then we'll take a quick break, but then the last 20 minutes or so I want to talk about the challenges of having a business in education and what some people are doing to work around those challenges. And then we're lucky enough to have a guest entrepreneur who has been there, done this, and he's going to tell you a bit about his experience and also take questions from you. So I think it goes without saying that we have a lot to do in a short amount of time, so I'm going to be trying to keep a really fast pace, and I might give you a time allotment and you're saying, what, 5 minutes? We're going to do that in 5 minutes? Just go with it. If you're not finished, it's fine. Do the best you can. I want to keep a rapid pace. And a quick disclaimer, if you have in your head an awesome idea that you've never talked to anyone about, definitely possibly before you start thinking about your business model or during that process, talk to someone else about that idea and refine it, because there's no substitute for a great product. And I just wanted to put that as a disclaimer. You're lucky enough to be part of a great community where you can get feedback on your idea and really develop that out. So definitely do that while you're thinking about business models. Cool, so let's get started with the business model canvas. This is a tool that's become really popular as a way to, 1, help you think about all the different aspects of your business, give a common language for you to talk to other entrepreneurs about your business. It's like speaking the same language. And of course, it's a way to visualize it. So it's a way to get it down on paper. So you have everything in front of you at once. So I wanted to talk about the business model canvas for you with an example that I want to run through very quickly, and that is the business of Netflix. I'm using that example because I think a lot of people are kind of familiar with Netflix. And to simplify things, I'd like to just talk about Netflix back when it was just DVDs and there was none of the streaming stuff. So maybe Netflix 10 years ago, maybe a little more. So that's the business I want to think about, and I'm going to try to map it up here. I want to start with the very center. Oh, by the way, if you have the business model canvas in front of you, if for some reason you don't have one, in your packet there's a mini 8x11 version, and feel free to follow along if that's your style. Yeah, so I want to start in the dead center here, which is value propositions, and that's what makes your business, what your secret sauce is, what makes it better than other products and services, and really what you're selling, what you sell. So for Netflix, we're all Netflix users, so can anyone shout out, like, what are some of the reasons you initially subscribed to Netflix and thinking about the DVD services? Does anyone want to offer up? Yeah. Convenience. Oh, wow. This is going great. All right. Anyone else? Yeah. Boom! This is like we're in Family Feud. I have my cheat sheet over here. Anyone else want to offer something up? I think I have a couple more. Yeah. Selection. Yeah, I think that one is 2 down. A large library. So thinking about reasons why you would subscribe to Netflix and not just go to Blockbuster, a large library, and the one I skipped over was suggestions. So actually, Netflix is keeping information on the movies you watch, and they're also asking you to rate movies. And so eventually, they're in a position to suggest to you what your favorite movie might be based on your past history. So this is what I think of as the value propositions for Netflix. Then I want to move on to working right here, the customer relationships box up top. So customer relationships on the business model canvas is, what is the nature of the relationship as a business you have with your customer? So what does that look like? Is it important for your business to have one-on-one interactions with your customer and be there right by their side? Or is it, in the case of Netflix, more like self-service and kind of automated? So that's the nature of the relationship with Netflix. And if this were, say, an airline, part of the customer relationships that they build are clubs and reward systems, like frequent flyer miles. These are all things that would go up on this box here called customer relationships. So it's the nature of the relationship you have with your customer. I think we're moving down to channels. Channels is any way you interact with your customer. So let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix obviously has their website, netflix.com, and then some people wouldn't include this, but I do because it's a way they interact with me as a user, is sort of your mailbox or the postal service as a delivery system, but ultimately those sleeves that they send you the DVDs in. So they might give you a little message, an advertisement, maybe they have a little description of the DVD on there. So this is the ways that Netflix is interacting with you, and those are the channels on the business model canvas. So who are the actual customers? That is on the far right, our customer segments box. So these are anyone you would spend extra time or effort on for your business. You want to give them special treatment. Those are the customers that you want to put in customer segments. So Netflix is kind of, I think their DVD mail model was limited to US, but for the most part, any household in the US could be a potential Netflix customer. So that's pretty broad. I put that up there first, and then I tried to break down a little bit the different sort of households that might be interested in Netflix. And I came up with film buffs or kind of like niche film watchers. That's a customer segment that Netflix might want to be actively thinking about pleasing. Another one might be families, people with children, or they have multiple members of their household, and also mainstream appeal. So people who are just interested in seeing blockbusters, what's the top 40 movies out there. These are different segments that I've identified that Netflix might be thinking about and spending extra time on, so I list them in the customer segments box on the canvas. And then down below, revenue, does anyone want to share the revenue streams for Netflix? subscription. And I don't think they do this anymore, but I'm pretty sure they used to back in the day. Advertisements on the envelopes. I haven't seen one in a while, so I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but I'm pretty sure they used to. So we've sort of filled out the right side of the canvas here, and this is traditionally the stuff that the customer will see. This is what's visible to us as a customer of Netflix, this right side of the canvas. And I want to move starting value props and going left to the left side of the canvas. And these are things that kind of happen behind the scenes to make these value propositions possible. So let's start with key activities. Again, key activities, anything that Netflix actually has to do to make these value propositions possible, right? First of all, they have to have DVD operations. So they have fulfillment centers where they're mailing and receiving DVDs. They have contract negotiations because they need to get licensing for all of this content so that they can mail it to you and rent it to you. And also algorithm development. So I mentioned as one of the value propositions was suggestions. So they have to work on that algorithm and fine tune it to make sure it's actually suggesting the correct things for you. Moving down to key resources, these are the things Netflix as a company has or owns that makes all of this possible, and sort of like their crown jewels, if you want to think of it that way. So for Netflix, I've identified the licensing contracts. Once they negotiate those contracts, some of them might be really exclusive and give Netflix an edge up, so that's one of their key resources that they have. And also, that suggestion algorithm, again, they're always fine-tuning it, and it might be their secret sauce, something that other people don't have. Finally, their inventory. Someone mentioned the large library. So they need to have that large library available across the country and available and for all their customers. So that's a key resource. Then I think I'm moving over to the key partners. This is anyone who is involved in your business. You can think of it as outsourcing, people who do things that are crucial to your business that are not you. So for Netflix, in their DVD model, they're using the Postal Service very heavily. So that's a key partner for them. And another one I have up there is the film and TV studios, because they're the ones that those contracts are being negotiated with. So they're definitely a key partner, and they can kind of make or break part of this model. And of course, the cost structure down below is what does Netflix have to pay to make this all happen? So those three things quickly, the facilities and staff from those DVD operations. I think they have at least 50 facilities around the US alone. Licensing costs. Once they actually negotiate those contracts, they have to pay something to have all those DVDs on file for you, and shipping and postage. So they actually have to pay the Postal Service to deliver the DVDs and when you send them back. Cool. So again, you will find online just hours and hours of descriptions about the business model canvas and all these different things. I just gave you the most lightning example I could using a company that we're all kind of familiar with. The next thing I want to do is sort of turn the tables here and ask all of you to work in your groups. That's why I asked you to be situated. I want to ask you to, on your business model canvas, sketch out, since we're talking about education here, the traditional university. And looking out around the room, I think that's just the university all of us attended, if you did attend. That model, sketch that out as a business on the canvas. So take a look at all the different boxes and descriptions I gave, and you can use a Netflix example as a reference. Sketch that out as a group. So quick guidelines on that. I'd like you to use one color Post-it note. So I gave you two colors. Just choose one for right now. They should be on your canvas. Some people are looking at me like I'm crazy. So hopefully there's some Post-its on your canvas. If not, raise your hand, I'll get you one. Just use one color, and please don't write on the canvas because I need to reuse these. I'm on a tight budget, okay? That's the honest truth. I'm gonna put 10 minutes on the clock and then I'll check back in with you. Markers down. We have one group that was kind enough to volunteer to sort of walk us through the canvas very quickly. And what I'd like to do now is allow you to share what you have if it's different from theirs. Can you guys come up, the group I just talked to? Sure, so a little share and compare. They're going to walk us kind of through each box, and then I'm going to ask you guys if you have anything different or anything you'd want to add, because I'm sure we all came up with some different things. So I'm going to hand the mic over to them. Somebody. Let's start with value props.
Okay, so some of the value propositions that we put down are you get a credential. You get exposure to other opportunities that you might not have the opportunity to otherwise. You get access to a network that's going to be there. Hopefully, you'll be able to get a successful career out of it and also gain some social skills.
Cool. So this is your chance, if you had a box that was empty, to kind of think about filling something in. Did anyone else have different value props they didn't hear?
There was one, maybe obvious, maybe totally not. Learning.
Right.
Learning.
Oh.
No, but the interesting thing is like that's like number 4 or 5.
So comment that learning is obviously one of the value props, and maybe we don't always think of it right away, which is funny. Yeah.
We had one with the social connections, which we rely on throughout the rest of the career.
Social connections. And did you guys say networking?
Yeah, we had our network.
Okay, cool.
Network, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, let's move on to the customer relationships.
Okay, so we only had 2. We had the student and teacher, and we also had simply student to student. I'm sure there are many more. But
What are some of the customer relationships people had in their boxes that might have been different? Yes.
Alumni to students, providing whether it was networking, financial support, or outside just like moral support, whether it's providing jobs.
Okay, so alumni
Alumni to student.
Alumni to student, okay. Yeah.
I would say student to mentor, which is a bit more personal, yeah, than just a faculty member.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Yeah.
We had student to institution as a service provider, for things like housing, food, physical.
So students are working at universities, is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I mean, that's a service when you pay tuition that you're expecting, for example, my room's not full.
Okay, so as a student, you're kind of at a traditional university, you're expecting this full package. So I need a place to eat, a place to sleep. Yeah.
I think there are also advisory services included in that, like career services.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would lump in, we talked about alumni, but I would lump in a lot of universities have big fancy alumni clubs, and they really think about their alumni relations. So they're thinking after you leave, partly because they want donations from you after you leave, right? But, cool. Take it down to channels. What did you guys say?
Okay. We had for channels the classroom setting or the lecture hall. I guess you can break that classroom down into whatever it is. Is it the lab? Is it the art studio? Whatever that is. And we also had the facilities, the gym, the library, dorm rooms, and all of that good stuff.
Anything else for channels? 1 or 2, anyone? Yeah.
Sporting events, online events are pretty big channels for them to advertise.
Sporting events.
But on channels, something how you reach your customers, right?
Yeah.
How do you attract them?
So you're looking at sorry, sports fans is like customers in the university on some level. Okay.
Okay, and then it will be outreach to independent school district high schools.
Cool. Independent school districts, high schools. Yeah.
Yeah, like college fairs and recruitment.
College fairs, I heard, recruitment. These are all part of recruitment.
Platforms, the
Yeah, we also
website
had,
itself.
Emails.
Alumni clubs.
Cool.
News folder.
All right. All good ones. Okay. Customer segments.
Okay, customer segments. We had students, we had the parents who may or may not be footing the bill. We had other companies, and we also had the alums.
Cool. And we could maybe add, someone mentioned sports fans. That's an interesting segment to think about. Maybe I'll move on to that to save some time. Down here, revenue.
Revenue streams, we had tuition and fees, donations, we put athletics down there, and also maybe the bookstore.
Okay. Other revenue. The back.
Parking services.
Parking. That's a good one. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Donations and grants and stuff like that.
Yeah, donations, huge one. Yeah.
I was going to say government research grants.
Government research grants. Yeah.
They went through their publications, for example, HBR or so they have their websites so that you can download articles and they can earn on that.
Okay. Cool. Want to keep moving because we have more to do here. Can we do? Where are we? Can we do key activities and key resources in one specific?
Sure. Key activities, the role of the registrar and also the admins, administration, keeping track of everything, the teaching that happens, and also athletics and coaching. And then down to key resources, we have the library, we have the professors themselves, and again, the facilities and all that includes.
Okay. Yeah, key activities. Anyone else have something to add there?
Research.
Research.
Career services like the placement, like once they finish your work and then.
Oh, like career placement? Sorry.
Student loans and student aid.
Student loans and student aid. Okay, how about key resources? We had libraries, facilities up here. Anything else? Yeah.
Distinguished alumni. Or key resources.
Oh yeah, alumni is resource. Okay, yeah, absolutely. All right, and I think that leaves the key partners.
Okay, key partners, we had the community, the government, loan companies, food services or other vendors, alums, and also facilities management.
Okay. Sounds good. And costs that are associated.
That was the last one we did, so we only got personnel and the upkeep of facilities.
Are there costs for university? Upkeep of facilities, personnel, yeah.
I mean, marketing and branding.
Marketing and branding.
Faculty to an extent.
Okay.
And then athletics and different programs that they have to provide for.
Athletics, yeah, we get career services. In the back, somebody.
Content licensing, for example, UT not like the state advertisement licensing from like other universities their content, right?
Okay.
I mean, like
Licensing, yeah. Okay.
Like
I gotcha.
a lot of schools use HBS the case studies and stuff like that.
Right. Was there someone in the back? Someone else that I missed? Okay. Great. So if you have an empty box, hopefully you can stuff some of these great ideas that you just heard in there. And thank you. Can we give? My hands are tied up right now, but can we give a hand to that? Thanks. Okay. So the next thing I want you to do is to pick a box on this canvas and as a team and make an innovation in that box. So think about, we just kind of did the traditional university. We heard a lot of online things, blah, blah, blah. That's the university as we know it. So let's pick a box and innovate in that box. So let's come up with something new that a university should be doing in that box. And then the second thing is, so let's just add one thing. What other parts of the canvas are affected in order to accomplish that? Okay, so I want to go back to, I was planning to have a paper thing for Netflix, but we ran out of canvases. So my Netflix example for this is going to be Netflix wants to do original content. That means they want to start making their own content and not just licensing other people's. So what do they need to do to make that happen? Let's just skip over the streaming thing again for a second. But they now have production costs. They now need to have all these personnel that are vetting maybe scripts and different show ideas. So what are all the different things that they need to do to make that innovation happen, and how does it affect the canvas, okay? So I'd like you to do a similar thing with your university canvas that you've just created. And in order for us to visually see what's happening, use a different color Post-it. So some people were lucky enough to have 2 pads. If you only had one, just trade with somebody nearby. Use a different color for this so we can actually visually see what's happening in your canvas. And I'm challenging you to get this done in 5 minutes. Wow, let's see if you can do that. Check back in with you soon.
My chief critique about college
Advanced degree
That's just one idea.
3 minutes left. If you haven't picked your box or your innovation, it might be time for eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And that is time. This time we were so lucky that we had a group volunteer to talk about their innovation on their canvas. So they're going to come up right now and work their way up. Okay, cool. So we're going to ask you to tell us which box you were innovating in, what your innovation was, and then walk us through the changes on the other parts of the canvas. And I'm guessing purple was your innovation color?
Yeah, purple is the innovation color. Our innovation was not to charge tuition. So,
Oh, I think. Great idea.
I can hold it for you. So, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So we decided that free tuition was really our biggest value proposition. So this is really the main way that we are bringing kids into our school. We decided that also was going to make us more focused on specific academics. We probably weren't going to be able to offer every major ever invented, but we were going to focus in on a few of them.
Cool. I think it made fundraising much more important. And probably got rid of, significantly more important, but also in a more innovative way. What the team came up with was maybe not saying, or not just saying we're going to find folks with big dollars, but saying maybe you come here, you get your education, and then you donate 3% of your income for the rest of your life. Right? Something a little bit more affordable, and also probably means college sports. We're not going to have a very large football team.
I'm out. Cool, awesome, thank you so much. Can you group, by show of hands, other groups that had free tuition as their innovation? One, I definitely saw. Two groups. Okay, what were some of the other innovations? I'm curious, someone can share? Yeah.
I think ours would be a great partnership with theirs. Our idea is to create a business and university partnership where students go to schools for specific trades, and the businesses and teachers come together to create courses for students that are innovative for today's society, not necessarily 1950. So I think if you have those partnerships, then a free tuition would be a lot easier.
Great. Another innovation someone wants to share, and can they talk about the canvas while they're sharing? Oh no, hand it down.
We didn't do the whole canvas.
Yeah.
That's okay.
We talked about it.
So the innovation was really to find an alternative way to do accreditation, because we had said that that's one of the value propositions of the traditional university. And so think of it kind of like a GD for college. And so if you could find a way to test the knowledge transfer and give an alternative accreditation program, and then that would then change the whole canvas as the relationship with the students, the type of students that we would target, the means by which we would get them. We wouldn't need to have physical facilities necessarily. We wouldn't have as much focus on education and knowledge transfer, but more about testing and accreditation, and then maybe setting up networks to do trainings with standard curriculums and things like that. The revenue stream would be much less, but our costs would also be almost nothing. Key resources could be online, and then partners would be kind of the infrastructure and ecosystem around the knowledge base in order to administer the test.
Excellent, thanks. Anyone else burning to share?
Ours was to improve internship and job outcomes for the different schools. And so it was literally new courses that were totally integrated and taught by alums and experts in different industries. And
so is that partnerships? Or?
So those are partnerships, but then also from the value proposition was literally to not just impart knowledge, but ensure that the kids can get a job. And so it was actually teaching them specific skills in terms of assessments, personal assessments, as well as very vocationally, what are the steps, what are the different pathways, but taught by industry experts to do that with mentors along the way.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so good news is I think we're slightly ahead of schedule, and right now we have, so I just asked you this to share your innovation. We have a 5-minute break, so you've been sitting for a while. Feel free to stretch your legs, grab a beer. I will get you back in 5 minutes. But yeah, feel free to stretch a little bit.
Dude, you're doing awesome. I've been trying to get video like go around.
University system, you're not really addressing the problem that you make to this so and that's okay, but you know, they actually really like even the technology because there's I mean, that's part of the crisis. In San Francisco,
Okay, we're gonna get started. We're starting back up in 15 seconds. back started. Thanks for your attention up front. Just make your way back to your seat. Now what I wanted to do is talk to you about some of the challenges of executing a business. Teacher move. Executing a business in education. So what are some of the challenges of using this canvas when you go to do your business? And a lot of these challenges come when you're selling directly to institutions. It doesn't have to be K-12, but universities. And so I want to talk about some of those challenges first. Wait, backward. Oh, I'm holding it upside down. Okay. So I see a lot of the main challenges in these quadrants of the business model canvas when you're thinking about challenges in education. So let's walk through those and talk about some of them. Customer relationships. Has anyone done business with an education institution? I kind of want to share in like half a second what some of those challenges might be, very briefly. Yeah.
Who do you actually need to talk to?
Okay, yeah.
They've never heard of you before.
Never heard of, so reputation. Okay, interesting. I think I have those a little later on. What I put for customer relationships is thinking about your product needing a lot of support and a lot of custom needs, because education is done very differently all over the country and then the world. So all of your customers have very specialized needs, and how do you address all of those? My example for this is when I mentioned I worked at Amplify. I was working as a software engineer, and I had this bug come into the field. The state of Indiana was one of our big customers, and one of our features didn't work on Internet Explorer 7. And all of us, hip kids are like, well, what? And they're like, well, we're running Explorer 7. Why do you upgrade it? Well, that would cost us this amount of money. Like, oh, okay. So we had people heads down fixing that bug. For a start, we were a big company. Amplify, if you don't know, is about like 1,500 people, so we can afford that kind of customer relationship. But if you're a startup, if you're 2 or 3 people, that's a lot of your time for a custom need like that, which might be a broader need. But anyway, important to think about the needs of your customers in education. The channels, these are the ones that I think some of you might have been getting at. And I'm thinking mostly about how do you initially get your product in the hands of your customers if you're aiming to sell at an institution. So, and a lot of times the sales cycle has a lot of bureaucracy in it. So how do you overcome that, or work with it, or work around it in the channels for reaching your customers? And then the next one, revenue stream. So this one, I feel like it's kind of a misconception that there's not a lot of money to go around in education. In fact, there is money, but the problem is getting at it and getting it into the hands of the right people. That's kind of a political opinion, but so it's difficult to access. It's not that it's not there. There's a lot of money being spent in education, but how do you get it as your business? So some of these challenges, and now I just wanted to quickly talk about how people are working around these challenges. What kind of solutions are trending that we're seeing? So the key questions here from those challenges might be, how do we bypass bureaucracy? And how do you initially reach your customer? How do they initially find out about you and that you have a wonderful product? So instead of going directly to an institution, some are going direct, what's traditionally called direct to consumer, B2C, in terms of business models. And who are the consumers in education? Well, some of the people that surround the institutions. They're not always a part of the institution, but they're in and around it. So just some examples make it clear. For example, parents, and this works I think for K-12 or higher education. Parents are spending a lot of money on education, so some people are targeting parents. Educators, much tougher, as the educators here will tell you, but there are some people who are marketing their products directly to educators who might have some discretion over their spending, and maybe they could be your consumer. And then students. This is more on the university level. So students might have some discretion over their own spending, what kind of products and tools they can use as part of their university experience, and maybe you're selling directly to them, even if it's not their own money. They're sort of driving the transaction. So advantages of this, no bureaucracy, you're bypassing that. It's an easier sale. You've got one person to deal with and sell on it, and then you've made the sale. But potential pitfalls, and I put up there smaller market. I don't know if that's quite the right words, and you might think, well, if I'm going from institution direct to consumers, aren't there a lot more consumers? There are, but the question is, are they willing to pay for your product? And how much are they willing to pay? So one of the things about selling to institutions is it's really hard to get that check, right? But when you do get that check, it's a big one. So if you're going direct to consumers, you're going to need a lot more consumers, and they have to be willing to pay for what you're selling. So that's something to think about with direct to consumer. Another solution, which is very popular, is freemium. So the concept of freemium is that your business offers some features for free, but there's some premium ones that you need to pay for. And the classic example of this that maybe you're familiar with is Dropbox. So Dropbox, you can get started for free. I think it says 2 gigabytes up there. But once you hit that limit, now you have to start paying. So it's kind of like, I got you hooked in, you like my product, here are some free features. Now, to take it to the next level, you have to pay. And if you're thinking like a business, maybe a pro account, $10 a month is doable for you on Dropbox. But what happens when you're much larger? And then they have a business enterprise type model. So they kind of work you down the stream there. And this is sort of my visualization of how this looks in education, right? So you can get your product directly into the hands of individuals. So for example, in K-12, maybe that's teachers. Maybe your product is for teachers. You can offer your product for free to teachers, or a subset of those features. And then those teachers, if your product is really great and really a lifesaver for them, they can sort of become your sales force within the institution. So instead of you knocking on doors, they're going to their principal and saying, wow, this tool is great, we need this. And oftentimes it happens that those key decision makers in these institutions rely on the opinions of some of their key staff members. So they really want to listen to that person, possibly more than they'd want to listen to a salesperson. They really want to please these individuals. And then of course, theoretically, if you had a bunch of schools in the district that were really into a product, you might have someone in the district level taking a look at it and wanting to buy a license for the entire district. So here's a look at the freemium model. Let's just dive a little deeper into the advantages and possible pitfalls. Obviously, less bureaucracy. The users becoming advocates is a really nice feature for your product if they really love it. And flexibility. So I want to go back to this picture. There's nothing that prevents you from jumping in on any point, any of these, what should I call them, columns, when you're making your sales. So you can start here, but you can also go directly to schools. You can also knock on the doors of districts. You can jump into the sales cycle at any point here. But theoretically, if someone really likes your product for free, they might be willing to convince someone to pay. So you've got flexibility in how you're making your money. But let's look at the pitfalls. The balance between free and premium is a really important one, and the time spent on non-paying customers. So that gets back to the customer relationships piece, that we talked about. If your customer is asking you to spend a lot of time integrating your product for them, and it's free, then that's time you're spending on customer support to build that relationship, and you're not making a dime, right? So that's a huge pitfall potentially for freemium. And then just talking about the difference between free and premium, those lines there, what crosses you over to the next column? Where do you draw that line for your product? What should be free? What is actually a premium? And making sure that's compelling, right? And also, if you're going to be selling to a decision maker, say at a school, you need to understand how that person's budget works. Do they set their budget a year in advance? Is anything over $5,000, they have to get the approval of 10 people to make that sale? So you have to be in tune to that and make sure that someone at a department at a university or a school in K-12 can actually be authorized to make the decision. So thinking about the price point, how much is that dollar sign in each of those columns? So those are really important to think about. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I wanted to show this slide from EdWeek. It shows basically a chart of EdTech investment, or just ventures in education over time here. So you have the .com bubble over there on the left. But you see, this is kind of small, apologize. This is 2005. This is last year. So you're looking at 10 years ago when these solutions weren't around. People weren't thinking innovatively about these business models and some other factors. Investment was much lower. Investors were looking at the education world and saying, I can't invest in that. I'm not going to get a return. And now they're changing their minds because of some of this innovative thinking. So it's a great time to be starting a venture in education and being in your position, is what I'm getting at. And actually this last column is the year to date. So this was released this morning by EdSurge, which is just an EdTech newsletter. Probably you all know we're subscribers, but if you're not, I highly recommend it. They're taking a look. The first quarter of 2014 was a record breaker. They have $417 million of investment in education. Some other people are counting 500 million. So we're seeing record-breaking numbers in investment, and this is just a graph of this year. So very cool. Yeah, and someone came up to me during the break and said, hey, have you heard of the Lean Canvas? And I wanted to point out that the business model canvas, there's been many iterations on it. And I didn't know that the Lean Canvas gentleman is from Austin. Is that the case? Okay, my bad. But yeah, so on this resource sheet is a lot more information that I don't want to just spew at you right now in terms of other models that are available and some example companies. And different resources for utilizing the business model canvas, a link to the Lean Canvas and the differences between the two and the thought behind the Lean Canvas. So definitely check out this resource. It's printed on paper for some of you when you walked in, but there's a lot of links and things, so I recommend going to the digital version, and maybe we can send one out, or I'll post it on the Facebook group that you have set up for the meetup so you can get at it. And that'll be evolving over time, so if you see something, if you feel something should be on this resource sheet and added, please, there's an email address on there. Please email me and let me know. This is going to be a living document, so that's kind of cool. And just some quick housekeeping. On the last page of that resource sheet, it's actually a survey, and I have some pens floating around. I'm really, really interested in your feedback on this session. So we're not done just yet, but I want to mention that. And I'd love for you to tear it off and just leave it on the table. We'll grab it before you leave. So please, please, that feedback will be incredibly valuable for me. And I really want to improve this session. We're doing it again in 2 weeks in Raleigh. So always iterating, right? And so now is a really exciting time. We happen to have a guest who has been there, done that in terms of entrepreneurship. He is the founder currently of Ponder Ventures. He's going to tell you about that. But he's generally been an entrepreneur and in K-12 and a specialist in K-12 EdTech for a long time. So I'm going to invite him to come up and talk to you about one of his business models using the Canvas. So let's give him a warm clap.
Just really quick, thanks for your welcome. So I get a sense of where everybody's from. Raise your hand if you are an educator. Okay, now put your hands back down. Raise your hand if you are a university educator. Okay. How about elementary, secondary, administrator of any kind? Okay, we got those. How about if you're an entrepreneur? Lots of entrepreneurs, some overlap there. How about how many of you work for a larger enterprise that works either in the technology or education spaces? Good. All right. Well, I don't pretend. My name is Ben Ponder. I don't pretend to know everything. I'll, and if I don't have an answer, I will just say I don't know. But I have experienced a fair amount in the education space, and am happy to share my bumps and bruises with you. And I've been a part of a few different, I like to think of them as adventures, and small, medium-sized, and large. And I faced the challenges, particularly in the K-12 space. I do want to put in one quick plug for the business model Canvas. Those of you, some of us have been entrepreneurs for a while, and we actually remember when people did full-on business plans. You raise your hand if you remember that. Banks actually required them. That was one of my first startups. We actually published. It was like an annual report. Like actually bound and illustrated and things like that. So the beautiful thing about this movement toward simple one-page planning is that we all kind of recognize, we're just guessing. So we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. So we're going to, it's like Dwight Eisenhower said, plans are worthless, planning is everything. And so you go through the process, but you don't necessarily hinge all of your hopes and dreams on this document. It's all about what you actually do or accomplish. So what I've done here is just in a very simple way. One of my current, I'm a true entrepreneur. I love starting stuff. It's I think it's the adrenaline rush. And but my primary focus at this point is a business called Ponder Insight, and it's attempting to address a concern that or a problem that I identified in my work with K-12 school districts. Those of you who are in school at the elementary or secondary level in the school ecosystem understand some of the unique challenges that are faced by both practitioners and people who want to be partners or vendors toward those districts. If any of you haven't read it, I highly recommend Larry Berger. Amplify, before Amplify was Amplify, it was Wireless Generation. And there's this a really great little white paper on selling into schools by Larry Berger, who was the founder of Wireless Generation. It's on the interwebs. Yes. Berger's B-E-R-G-E-R, and it's Larry. Just Google it. It's very, very worthwhile. It's about the challenge of coming into a school district, slow sales cycles, that sort of thing. Again, one of the challenges with schools is, if you think about it, historically, regulatory-wise, you have 15,000 school districts in the U.S., public school districts, and within those oftentimes several schools, and they're autonomous for the most part, right? So there's not, it presents all kinds of logistical challenges for how you get a customer, great, 14,999 to go. It's not like it doesn't work the same way that consumer stuff goes. So I have worked with a number of different companies in that EdTech space, and one of the things that I've seen is that schools are horrible at buying technology. They are under a tremendous amount of pressure to buy technology, and so they spend it. It's there, anybody who operates in a world where there are budgets, and if you don't spend the budget, it's gone the next year. They spend it, but there's oftentimes not much rhyme or reason to how it gets spent. And frankly, it's not, I don't mean any, there is no offense intended there. It's simply that they don't have the time, resources, or expertise that's not what they do, right? To know every possible learning management system out there that's on the market and the pluses and minuses and that sort of thing. So this business, Ponder Insight, is really designed to be kind of a small scale Gartner, maybe with a little Consumer Reports mixed in, to help school districts make educated decisions about education technology. So one of the, again, just to look at some of these, starting in the middle, the focus is unbiased independent research. My background is eclectic, but I came from an academic background before I became an entrepreneur. And so I've spent a lot of time doing research. And so triangulating diverse data points and aggregating a lot of cacophonous data is something that I perversely enjoy, I think, and distilling that down into these very simple product report cards and to give products overall GPAs. We asked 33 questions about every single product, including sort of background about the company and things like that. Again, very high level stuff I'm going through here. Let's see. One of the things that you have to understand, because school districts are kind of like your high school in a certain way. Like, they're the popular kids, and then they're the kids who nobody else, whatever they wear has no impact on anybody else. So if you're going to sell into school districts, it's pretty important to understand in every state, in every region, there are school districts that everybody else pays attention to. And if you get those districts, many of the other districts will sort of blindly follow. I'm not saying that's good, it just is what it is. And in the same way, if you know who the smart, reflective people are, they can, like we've talked about some, they can be advocates for you as well. So maybe skipping around, again, I'm really big on systems and structures, and it's important to understand in the K-12 space, and we can talk about higher ed, post-secondary as well, but there is this whole ecosystem, and you have to understand how decisions are made, how budgets are configured, and who has, I like to say when you're selling into a school district, there may be 1 to 2 dozen people with the authority to say no, and only 1 person with the authority to say yes. It's very important to know that before you waste your time, because you could have 11 people who say, yeah, this is the greatest thing ever. If you don't get the 1 person, it didn't matter, right? You just wasted all your sales and marketing money. So understanding that within the district, and understanding how the district buys things. A lot of districts will only pilot. So 1 school, maybe 4 schools. Schools love pilots. So you do small sample and roll it. If it's successful in a small scale, then it gets rolled out. But in this sort of larger ecosystem, schools are often connected, especially smaller schools, rural and suburban school districts are connected through this sort of connective tissue of service centers and then cooperatives, right? Because especially when it comes to technology, rural schools, a lot of times, there may be 1 technology coordinator who is shared among a series of 4 to 6 schools, right? Because they don't have enough, they have like 6 computers or something like that. So that person drives around and takes care of everybody's tech, IT support needs. So cooperatives, service centers, and other agencies sometimes serve important functions here. Many of them actually have an entrepreneurial spirit. If you can get those people to champion your product and perhaps there to be some incentive for them to sell into their constituent districts, that can be a real win for you, because then you've distributed your sales force effectively. So there's a number of those things, different associations, innovation clusters that happen. Let's see. Honestly, we can. It's running a business. You gotta. If you're bootstrapping or hoping to be revenue positive and haven't just raised a ton of money and have a forever runway, then it's important that you're actually earning money, and so you want that to happen as quickly as possible, frequently as possible, and for it to hopefully be recurring, and for there to be plenty of possibilities for value adds and that sort of thing. So anyway, high level, and I'll let. You want to do, John? Yeah. We're going to do sort of a dialogue thing here.
Yeah. Sorry, we just lost our visual, so I'll have to tap that in a second. But I'm wondering, for this business or for previous businesses, because again, Ben is actually a serial entrepreneur, so he's done a few different ones. The channels, getting initially to customers, so the challenges around channels. You mentioned pilots. So has that traditionally been your method, or are there other things you've used?
I think it depends. Certainly, pilots are a great foot in the door strategy. Ultimately, I think what you have to understand is that your business will only be as strong as the solution to the pressing problem. And I see this in a lot of entrepreneurial endeavors in the EdTech space. Is there are a lot of solutions in search of a problem. And it's important to really define what the problem is and for whom in the district, and to pitch your product or service or whatever it is as a very specific solution to that person's product. You want to, if it's the kind of product that the district CFO or financial officer person would ultimately have the say in, then you want to make sure that he or she is a hero as a result of your product, right? And that you want to understand what it is that keeps that person up at night. And if you don't address that, again, you're probably wasting your time. Is there an existing line item in the budget for this kind of thing? And it's good. A beautiful thing about education is there's a lot of publicly available information. Unlike most other industry sectors, you can find out granular detail what a school district's budget is, right? And so look at it. Like you may have to do a little searching, but how much money are they spending on whatever narrow category your product falls into, and can you save them $10,000 or whatever the amount is, and have X gain in performance or efficiency and that sort of thing. So certainly solving that problem and then making it as unintimidating and low commitment as possible in the beginning is really helpful. That may look like a consulting or advisory type relationship in some way. Effectively, you're providing a service, and if they like the service, then they're more open to the productization of it.
Yeah, so if I was going to summarize, it sounded like really understanding the needs of your customer, especially right into their budget numbers, and tweaking your product to kind of fit within those lines. So again, a great product, that was our disclaimer.
I'll give you an example. There's a company some of you may be familiar with. I think it's a really good example. Well, actually, I'm going to do two examples really quick. I love the title of this session is Sustainable Business Models. And actually, I've done some work in renewable energy, so I'm big on sustainability. I like closed loop business models as much as possible. And I'm from Arkansas originally. And go Hogs. There's in Northwest Arkansas, which is a relatively affluent area, Walmart and all those kinds of things. There's a lot of chicken farms. Tyson Foods is based there and that sort of thing. There's a pretty big trucking company called J.B. Hunt. You may have seen the trucks. And so this guy got started in Northwest Arkansas. There are a lot of chicken farms. And he would take his truck and he would get the chicken litter, and which is like the leftover chicken feces, and put it in the back of his truck. And he would drive it down to southeast Arkansas, which is the #1 rice producing area of the country. And he would dump it on the fields as fertilizer. And then he would get the rice hulls that were left over from the production of rice and fill up his truck and drive it back up to Northwest Arkansas for chicken bedding. That's really smart business, right? So like if you can take somebody else's cast off and turn and create value in it, then that's a good thing. And so I'm always looking for like systemic ways within education or any other business that you can apply some of those principles. But there's a company called Rethink Autism. It's actually Rethink now. Anybody, have you guys heard of it? It's based out of New York. Very smart team. And they recognize that the two founders are just business people. They no real education background, and but they brought an educator on really early on in the process. But here's the thing, certainly children who are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder is just skyrocketing as a percentage of the population, and schools, because of all kinds of IDEA requirements and other regulatory things, are mandated to provide services for those kids. And especially in rural schools, there are not always the adequate resources to do that. So many school districts around the country were busing kids to the next biggest city somewhere and paying up to like $50,000 per year to provide therapy and stuff like that for these kids. Well, what Rethink Autism did, they raised a lot of money, which always helps. And they filmed a bunch of ABA-approved behavioral therapy for these kids in like a little mini studio with like two-way mirrors, and with an actual therapist working with a child. And they effectively sold videos to help coach school districts in how to really deal with and teach and train kids on the autism spectrum. And the product was and is really expensive, but it's not $50,000, right? So if you can say, we can save you, our product's $10,000, it's still crazy expensive, but it's $40,000 less, right? So it's all relative if that's what the district is spending. And so that's why I really am harping on understanding the budget and how the decisions are made.
Absolutely, cool. Thank you for those examples. I have a lot more questions, but this isn't really about me, so we've allotted some time for questions from you guys. Is there anyone who has a question they want to ask Ben? I'm running the mic.
Yeah. Do you have any experience with the freemium model and sort of the perception that
the product might get from the schools for receiving something for free?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there are examples of the freemium model that work, but it's different in schools. Evernote, for instance, right? Like, or Google Apps for Education. There are a number of things that might be free in some settings. Evernote for schools costs, but it's more or less it's Evernote for business, but it's at a lower price point, right? So it's an enterprise class Evernote, but you can get your individual Evernote for free. There's also the open source stuff where Moodle is open source, but there are other businesses that have sort of built a layer on top of that, and they sell that as a value-added service. And Edmodo certainly is another well-known example. The difference in so when you think about freemium, I think ultimately a business has to pay its bills, and if you haven't. Freemium is really primarily open to you if you've raised a significant amount of capital, right? Because you have to have runway. Otherwise, you'll end up servicing free customers. I mean, again, the lion's share, 95% of your customers will never pay you a red cent. And so you'll go out of business servicing people for free. So the only way you can even consider it is if you have a pretty substantial runway. The challenge in the education space is when freemium means we'll give you the product, but we'll collect data from users of the product, and then we will sell you access, to the system. Again, some of you may be familiar with, InBloom and a lot of it. There's a lot of sensitivity around student data at this point. Whether it's anonymous or not, it's something to take really seriously. Certainly, when you get into the world of saying in-app purchases, like I'm a parent, and I hate book fairs because they're marketing to my kids. It makes me so mad. Like, what? No, market to me. Don't market to my kids. Like, they come home, Dad, I gotta have this book, and then you're like, it's like going into the cereal aisle. But I haven't heard great examples or really innovative business models around freemium for education at this point. I think you're better off, again, the only instance, and you may have an example, if you're doing something that's totally new, that there is no possible budget category for the school or district to pay for it, then it may have to be an option. I would encourage you, schools are going to spend money on things, and like my business, we've discussed, for the most part, they're going to spend money on really terrible technology. So if you have good technology, they'll pay for it. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, in my experience, I've seen. So my experience.
Sorry, Chuck. This is not what I'm going to say to big boy voice.
So in my experience, I mean, Google has come in, deployed, user by user free tools that have become almost pervasive across the faculty. And then they come in and say, now we're going to charge for an administrative level of apps for education with Active Directory so that the central admin tech guy can control and monitor everything that's going on. So, I mean, how do you look at Google's entry point and monetization strategy, and how do you compare that to what other companies could do?
Well, certainly Google is in a category of its own in terms of revenue and install base. I will say this, I had a conversation with a senior person at the Google education team, and this was at this White House education event, and I asked him point blank, I said, what's the end game here? Like what, why, sure, yeah, this is good, you're giving stuff away, go. But ultimately, are you, in order to sustain this, you're going to start advertising to kids? I mean that really is how, still to this day, Google primarily makes its money, right? It is through delivery of text-based ads. And this guy just fell all over himself. No, we would never collect data about kids and use it in any way for our marketing purposes. I mean, literally like a week and a half later, guess who got caught with their hand in the cookie jar? Google Education. And so I don't necessarily believe it's, I think honestly it's just what they do, and they didn't, I don't attribute malintent to it. For me, in my businesses, I really like, I like the people who use the product to pay for the product. It's a lot cleaner. When you get into, and there's nothing wrong with advertising, but it cuts into user experience because nobody really likes ads, right? They interfere. You know, I'm trying to look at a thing on Forbes and there's a dancing ad in front of me. Like, no, get out of the way. I want the information. You know, like, and so most advertising interrupts what I was trying to do, and so yeah.
Eliminate the advertising aspect. I'm talking about.
But that's how Google keeps its lights on.
Right, but I'm saying in the case of an EdTech company, if you're deploying to one user with a convincing value proposition, a free product, because let's say you want to get it in the hands of teachers. Okay, I'm a teacher, I know teachers, they don't want to personally spend money out of pocket on technology stuff they don't have to. And so if you get something in their hands that they start using, then what you're doing is opening up the dialogue like we were seeing earlier in the presentation to introduce that purchase to the higher level.
And hopefully you get a groundswell, but you also know that because you know, when you work in education, you realize that the agenda for the administrators is not the same as the agenda for the teachers in many cases. And so it has to be a really significant groundswell, or again, it's sort of that Maven philosophy. You know, there are usually 2 or 3 teachers who have tremendous sway over the administrators, and you know, so if those people are the ones who approach the administrator, then maybe that works. I'm all for sort of eating your way up the food chain. I think that's legit. It's the only way you can do that from because you're still, you know, you're still paying for Amazon Web Services or you know, whatever else. You have bills to pay. You better have a lot of money in the bank if that's your strategy.
Well, along with that, you know, I don't have the clout of Google. You know, me and whatever.
Nobody does.
Right. You know, like that's going to be a hard way to come up with that. And so with this freemium, how long am I going to be collecting data and spinning my wheels in this free process before I say it's time to initiate, it's time to move into the premium?
Well, you know, the reason that people do that is in order to get angel investment or venture capital, you need to demonstrate traction. And so that traction either comes in the form of revenue, which is ideal, or a really scaling, or rapidly scaling user base, right? So that could be your strategy, and you're like, hey, I'm going to get as many people to use this product as possible. And then hope just kind of hang on and see if we can keep keep the lights on while that's going. It's fraught with all kinds of peril though. Truthfully, I've seen kind of the saddest scenario that is all too common is you actually grow it, but you aren't able to either raise the money or make the money to do anything with it. And then you're just like paralyzed in this plateau. Right? And so you have 100,000 people using the thing, but nobody's paying you for it. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to hurt their feelings if I unplug it. What do I do? You know, like, they actually are using it. Crap. Like, you know, so it's, I compare the freemium stuff, it's fascinating to me. It's like, if I had a business that was, if I gave you, I actually thought about doing this, giving everybody a chocolate bar. Here's a free chocolate bar. You know, isn't that delicious chocolate? I make better chocolate bars than anybody else. At what point, you know, and so you're like, you know, I get this thing, it's awesome, it's free. You know, but then I hand you the next, you're like, can I have $1? You're like, man, that's so offensive. Like, how dare you ask me for $1? You know, like it's a strange dynamic, right? So when you go from free to paid, it's like information wants to be free, right? You go from free to paid. It's not even, now if the very first time I say I have the most delicious chocolate bars in the world, they're only $1. Maybe half of you would actually pay for it. But it's not offensive in the same way. It's making that leap from free to paid, it's tough.
We have time for one more, sorry.
How about bottled water? Because I mean, candy bars aren't a need. You know, nobody's craving that early. Well, obviously,
You obviously don't know chocolate.
But I mean, there's a demonstrated need for something. I think that's, you know, for an entrepreneur, you have to find what your customers will pay for.
Well, yeah,
Right.
you have to create that need, and then like after you create the need for free, then you're like, I mean, just like Amazon Prime does or Netflix, you know, they offer it for free for like a month or 6 months.
Okay, how about this? How much would you pay for Facebook? Anybody? $100 a month. Anybody raise your hand? Would you pay $100? I mean, these are your friends and family. Don't you love them? Like,
I pay $5 a month.
I mean, yeah, you pay five.
The pricing has to be up front, though, just like you stated.
Right,
You have to know at some point.
The question is, who are the customers and who are the users?
And what's the problem you're solving, right? Are you solving a critical problem without which this person's job is harder, or you know, they're less effective, or kids aren't achieving to the same level?
Have there been companies that have succeeded at targeting teachers and charging them and succeeding on that without going?
Teachers pay teachers is an interesting sort of crowdsource model where teachers set up their own little stores with their own, they make their own materials, and then it's a marketplace. They take a little cut, and you know, but teachers, you know, one teacher made over $1 million.
EdTech-wise.
Well, it isn't. I mean, it's kind of an EdTech thing, but it's a platform marketplace play. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. We're going to have some mingling time, so you can come up and ask your questions directly. We all have to be out at 9. But I just wanted to thank you all for being here very much, and I wish you the best of luck in your adventure as an entrepreneur in education. I really encourage you. And also, take a look at our website for resources that can support you in your journey on that. And I'm going to hand it off to Sean, who has some closing remarks for us.
First of all, thank you so much to John for coming out here. Let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you also to Ben, who he will be around, so if you have more questions for him, let's give him a round of applause as well. I want to remind you of a couple things. First of all, if you want to fill out that feedback form for John so that you can get really good information. I also would love for feedback for EdTech Austin. If you liked tonight's event as kind of a workshop on EdTech businesses, if there's another kind of workshop like this that you'd want to see, please give us that feedback. There's a million different ways that you can do that. Facebook, Meetup, you can email me. So please give us that feedback. If you parked in the garage at the Omni Hotel, you can get a $5 voucher. So if that's you, see Ali, he'll have them for you at the front desk. And for the next meetup, we hope you'll come back and you can park down there and they'll give it to you for $5. Last but certainly not least, Sebastian is at the back of the room, and he's got these coupons that have the promo code to sign up for Startup Weekend, which is going to be at the end of July, as I mentioned earlier. We really, really hope to see you out there. Please share it with your friends, let them know that you're going, and join us next month. That is our programming for next month, so we're not doing a meetup. Please attend. It's going to be awesome, and it will only be awesome if you go. So, all right, that's all I've got for you. Have fun networking, and I'll see you all next month.